I'm Anthony Roley, and I'm 65 years old. I was not feeling well. I knew something was wrong, and I was talking to my wife, and she told me, says, listen, it's time for your annual checkup with Dr. Deavers. So she says, won't you go talk to him? So I went and told him everything was going on. He says, well, let's do some blood work.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Justin Deavers. I'm a primary care physician for Baldwin Health over in Orange Beach. Yeah, so this was a routine physical exam. Mr. Roley had come in with really not a whole lot of complaints or issues, so we were doing some basic primary care labs, which included cholesterol panel, blood sugar, kidney liver panel, routine physical exam. His cholesterol had been high. It had been high looking back through his records for several years, so I recommended a coronary calcium score to look further into that.
The only other thing that we need to check is your heart. She said, let's get a calcium score test done. So I had scheduled at 8 o'clock one morning, and it didn't take no time to do that score. And I was feeling good about myself. So after I left the hospital, I went to a Shell station, got me, you can't eat anything for the process. So got me a cup of coffee, and I said, I deserve something. You tried to eat right and all that kind of stuff. And I said, I'm going to get me one of those gigantic honey buns. And so I went up to the counter, put my coffee and honey bun there, and the phone rings. And my wife said, you're going to have to come back into the hospital tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. And I said, wait just a minute. I said, let me call you back.
Yeah, so there is a wide range on this score. It can be 0, which is completely undetectable calcium, meaning that there's not a large plaque burden there. There's potential that the score could be 0 and there's still a tiny amount of plaque, but it would be a clinically insignificant amount. It will range all the way up into what I typically see in an average patient with some mild buildup into the 20 to 50 to maybe the low 100 range. It will go all the way up into the thousands, and that's where Mr. Roley's score was. So he had a very significant amount, and so we called him right away the next morning, and by the time I was calling him, I think the cardiologist and the radiologist were calling him as well, and so everyone was pretty concerned with the amount of score that was on there.
And I stepped outside and I said, what's going on? And she said, it looks like you have 3 blockages. And I said, what? Are you kidding me? She says, no, you got to be here in the morning. And so, I got up and next day and, said, oh my goodness, what is going on? What are they going to find once they start this procedure? And it was surreal, going through that procedure. After you have a procedure like that, you reevaluate your life. Is the fast foods that you eat really worth it? Thinking, you're not as young as you once were. And the quality of life that you want, I have 5 grandchildren now that I want to be able to see them grow and become the human beings that I would like for them to be, to help the environment instead of be a hindrance. So it's been an adjustment, but I think it's a good adjustment.